Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new chapter of Field Trips Always End Terribly by Itslivybear on AO3. This will be chapter 13. Stop! I could have dropped my croissant! Summary: the croissant in this case is Shindo, aka the second half of the test. Izuku was frozen, looking at the destruction of the area as other people rushed around him. The icing on the cake would be if it was dark outside, maybe lit up with fires. He could feel a headache coming on, surge tickling the back of his mind, and his ears rang, before a little tiny voice got through the haze. I will be helping with the first aid station. Pinpoint, Earjack, and Tentacle split up to go with various groups to find civilians. Does everyone else have their assignments? Right, the earpieces from the first round that no one had gotten to really use. There was a chorus of agreements from the various class members at Momo's declaration, and Izuku blinked. Right, this was still a test, and it was just a test. He wasn't in Kamino. Sensei was locked up tight, and he was going to be a hero. He ran to where Uraraka was gathering with a few others, mostly their friend group. Let's head to the city zone. Micor can lift off rubble, Todoroki can stabilize, Shenso can calm other people, and Midori can find them. Then Ida can run them back to the first aid station. Said boy chopped his hands in the air. Agreed, we will be a most efficient team. They set off, running for the city zone, where there were a few other test takers already. One of note was the mountain of hair from Shiketsu, who was using his hair to clear the area and a path back to where the first aid station was getting set up. From there, students spread out, gathering the members of the HUC that were posing as victims. Izuku closed his eyes, spreading out Surge. Two in that building, one smaller than the other, a child and an adult. Uraraka and Todoroki carefully worked to get the rubble cleared to where he could crawl in to get to the smaller of the two, a crying child. Wah! Where's Grandpa? He tried to smile. Don't worry, we know exactly where he is, and are working to get him now. Are you hurt anywhere? The kid scowled. Duh, can't you see my bleeding leg? He winced. There was indeed red, even if the wound didn't ping on Surge. Ah, yes, let me help you up. My friend can take you to the first aid station, and we'll send your grandpa right after you, okay? That seemed to be the right response, as the actor went back to crying, and Izuku gently picked him up, heading back the way he had come through, the larger hole, and handing him off to Ida. He has a leg injury, but otherwise seems to be in good health. I'm going back for the grandpa. He extended search once again, locating the old man and directing the team to where he was buried as Ida ran off, cradling the child. They had a test to take. When the wall buzzed down and Ganuoka and black-clad sidekicks came pouring in, Izuku panicked for about half a second before video game brain took over and he recognized the final boss of the level. Now the test had two parts: get the civilian out of the chaos and keep the civilians out of the chaos. I'm going in, Todoroki muttered over the radio, and there were several people who chimed in, wanting to help defend the vulnerable first aid station from the villains. Izuku, however, with search, was much more suited to finding the last of the civilians in danger. He pressed a finger to his ear. Ingenium, we have another civilian to take back. Are you on your way? Negative. Ida was just as robotic over the radio. There are too many minor villains around. I am assisting with the evacuation efforts. He bit his lip before nodding, smiling at the civilian. Okay then, I'll take you. I'll know if anyone tries to sneak up on us, so we'll be totally fine. The actor nodded, eyes wide in apparent fear as Izuku wrapped his arms more tightly around them and took off in the direction of the first aid station, leaving Hitoshi and Uraraka to work with the other hero students on site. Upon arriving, it was chaos. Controlled to a point, but still chaos. The black-clad sidekicks were shooting cement guns as the heroes scrambled behind their defenses to move the civilians. One kid, the earthquake one from before, slammed his hands down into the ground, ripping up the ground like he had done the first round, staggering and displacing a horde of sidekicks. "Thanks, Shindo." The boy clad in green grinned, but Izuku felt him out on search again, noting his body was full of tremors and he was unable to move. He cursed internally, handing the civilian off to a student manning the first aid station before he ran over. "How soon can you move again? Is there anything I can do to help?" The lookalike's eyes trailed up to Izuku and narrowed in a frown. "How did you know?" "My quirk. Is there anything I can do to help?" Shindo chuckled. "No, I'll get up eventually. I'm more used to vibrations than most people. It'll be soon enough to stop another wave, though." Izuku felt a prickle on his neck and whirled around to see Todoroki and a loud boy from Shiketsu having an argument. His eyes widened as the boy's wind pushed Todoroki's fire directly in their directions, and he latched onto the older boy, still unable to move much, and darted out of the way. "Sorry about the rough handling, but I have to go yell at some idiots." Shindo merely snorted, trying to get movement back into his limbs as Izuku darted over to the boys who had now begun yelling. "You're just like... What the hell do you two think you're doing?" They both jumped, turning to the shorter boy. Todoroki stepped forward. "Midoriya." "Don't you Midoriya me! You almost got Shindo killed." The rumbling voice of Gang Orca had him whirling around, and he whipped out a knife, throwing it with deadly accuracy into the hero's legs before he could sonic blast it away. He drew another knife as the hero winced and tossed the thrown one aside. "If you do want to settle your differences," he spat, "then do it when other people aren't counting on you. This isn't the time for you to let your emotions get the better of you. Work together or drop out of the test. At least then you won't be a hindrance to others and yourselves." Not waiting to see their reaction, he spread search to the faux villain in front of him. "Ah, Pinpoint, how nice of you to save your two colleagues from making a fatal mistake. A good shot. You will not get another one." He cocked his head. "We'll see about that." He ran forward, rolling to the side as the Orca hero let out a shriek that hurt his ear, but missed him due to his dodge. He thought of the game Dark Souls, but something told him this would be a little harder than finding any of the wayward demons in that game, seeing as Gang Orca was the number 10. He drew a knife at an approaching sidekick without even looking, knocking the cement gun out of their hands. No one could sneak up on him, not right now. He barely even needed his eyes to open to intimately know everyone nearby. A lick of fire distracted the villain's boss, and Izuku's eyes darted to Todoroki momentarily. Good, he had gotten over whatever was distracting him and was deciding to help. "His left side is the weakest right now," Izuku called out, hoping the other two heard. "Focus your attack there, and he'll go down faster." Gang Orca grunted as the fire came at him again, this time focusing on his left side completely, while Izuku came at him from the other side, forcing him to choose which attacks he wanted to deflect. He seemed to be drying out, just what Izuku was counting on. Before he could dart in, the hero made a sweeping sonic attack, locking him in a temporary paralysis and causing Todoroki's flames to die out as he stumbled away from the assault. He desperately cast out search again, getting the information on the hero as he whipped out his water bottle and doused himself in it, effectively countering the drying that had been happening. "Ah, a good effort, truly, heroes. Sadly, I am far more prepared than you could be. This ends now." As if his words were prophetic, the buzzer sounded out and Mara's tired voice ran out one more. All you HUC members have been successfully evacuated, and with that, the test is over. Please make your way back to the preparation area to receive your scores. Gangorka relaxed. Ah, it is over. That was a good fight. And Midoriya. The boy looked up, shaking off the paralysis. It's good to see you looking so well. He blinked. Oh, were you also on the team that Aizawa put together? I was indeed. His voice rumbled as he strolled forward, completely relaxed, and his eyes crinkled. I couldn't stand the thought of someone your age getting kidnapped, so of course I accepted the offer when it came. Ah, his eyes lit up. That's right, you are rather fond of children, even if many of them find your appearance scary. He realized what he had said when all the aquatic men slumped. When the tall aquatic man slumped and hurriedly patted him on the arm. I think you look really cool, Mr. Gangorka, sir. Thank you for looking for me. He grinned at the hero once more before he went to help Todoroki and the other boy, Inasa, the hairy one had called him. So what was that about? Fighting in the middle of the exam? Todoroki shifted, looking away, but the wind boy was more than happy to elaborate. Todoroki is just like his father, with cold eyes. Todoroki flinched and scowled, whirling on the taller boy. That's insulting. I reject my father and everything he stands for. If you hadn't made me so mad, I wouldn't have used this fire at all. Izuku narrowed his eyes. His fire? Todoroki nodded stiffly. I will become a hero without his power. Todoroki, look me in the eyes and call it his power again. The jewel-colored boy frowned and furrowed his brow, but opened his mouth to comply when Izuku cut him off. No! That's bullshit! Even if you inherited the genes from his quirk from him, it's still your quirk. He pursed his lips and looked away. At least you have that luxury. Todoroki seemed to realize what he was getting at and paled, but Izuku turned to the other boy. As for you, Todoroki isn't his father, he's his own person. If you have a problem with him, again, you should have dealt with it after the test, but in reality, it shouldn't matter. You both had a job to do, and you let a petty squabble get in the way of doing your job. If this were real, that could have caused the deaths of countless civilians and massive property damage. Both of you need to talk it out and get your shit together. Now come on, let's go see the results. Without another word, he turned on his heels to where the rest of the class was gathering in front of a large screen and podium with Mera behind it. The rest of the students trickled in from across the area, and the tired commission representative cleared his throat. We will be passing out score breakdowns in a moment, but look at the screen now. If you see your name, it means you passed and now have a provisional license. Izuku chewed on his lower lip, searching for his name. It was alphabetical, so his eyes flitted to the syllables closer to his name. Midoriya, Midoriya, Midoriya. Yes! He let out a breath. He had passed. His gaze drifted to try and find his friends. There was Hitoshi, Momo, Uraka, Ida, Tsu. He glanced over at his hot and cold classmate, who looked rather stoic and almost resigned as he was handed the paper with his score breakdown. Those of you who didn't pass will have the chance to do a remedial class and get your license in 3 months. Congratulations to those who passed. I'm going to nap now. Izuku was handed his own paper and was pleased to see a score of 81, only a few points getting taken off for some of his responses to civilians. He heard Bakugo explode across the area, Kirishima trying to calm him down. It looks like he didn't pass either. Best not to bring it up. In no time at all, he was back on the bus, the class congratulating each other, and the Baku squad ribbing their namesake for his near miss. Shut the fuck up! He finally exploded, popping off his quirk, sending Mina shrieking back with laughter. I'll get it in 3 months. If those extras weren't fucking stupid, they wouldn't have docked my points. Yes, yes, Kirishima patted him on the back with a barely concealed sharp-toothed grin. We know, they weren't really that hurt. You could have been a little nicer about it, Bakabro. The blond boy rolled his eyes and grumbled, but immediately deflated under the ministrations of the other boy, and Izuku blinked. He had never seen someone calm Bakugo that quickly, and with minimal explosions. Kirishima really was something else. Hitoshi sat back in the seat with a tired sigh. That Mera guy had it right. I need a nap after all of that. Izuku snorted. Toshi, you nap all the time. Yeah, well, it's always a good time for a nap. Uraraka laughed in the seat ahead of them. I feel that right now. My bones feel like jelly. Well, Momo interjected, when you did that power-up application of your quirk, you did almost break your arm a few times until you got a better handle on it. Izuku perked up. Oh yeah, I noticed that earlier. How did you do that, and when? She chuckled and scratched her head. After the sports festival, I wanted to be stronger. I figured out how to negate partial weight, and the difference in momentum helps, but more power behind my punches. I think there's also a little extra weight behind them, like an increased muscle mass. But anyway, I can really only apply the partial stuff to myself for now. His eyes glittered and his fingers itched. That's so cool. I wonder if you could somehow reverse your quirk and add weight to things. I know that technically your quirk is all about negating weight, but maybe if you took that feeling and somehow, I don't know, inverted it? That might not work. He trailed off, lost in thought as his classmates chuckled. I'll have to try it, Deku. Thanks for the idea. He looked up and smiled. Of course, you already came up with some clever things. Mine's just an idea that might not even work. Hitoshi scoffed. Please, you come up with something for everything. Sure, not all of them work, but the ones that do, holy cow. Izuku blushed and ducked his head. I'm just glad as many of us passed as we did. Ha? You sing shit? No, Kachan, we're first years. We're not expected to pass, that's all. The blonde snarled once more before turning away. Good, you know better than to talk shit. Todoroki looked up from his phone. You aren't the only one who failed at this junction, Bakugo. Shut the fuck up, icy hot. Jiro, apparently, had no sense of self-preservation, even if she was half a bus away from Bakugo as she twirled her ear jacks. Kinda crazy how arguably the two strongest people failed. Arguably? No shit, I'm strong. Half and half isn't too bad either, but I'm the strongest. Don't come at me with any of these arguably shit. And yet, you still failed. The entire Baku squad lunged to grab him before he could get up and fly down the bus to kill the punk girl who was looking rather satisfied with herself, and the rest of the class laughed. Izuku's sweat dropped at the clear provocations and was reminded of another bus ride where he had been blown away by people actually teasing Bakugo and getting away with it. Then he thought of what happened after the bus ride and his smile fell. Hitoshi nudged him. Frowning is not allowed. We passed the provisional exam and now we can maybe go on work studies. He straightened his back, steely determination in his gaze. You're right. I really need the experience, so hopefully they let me go. His friend nodded. I think Aizawa might be sending me through more training, so maybe that counts. I'm sure if you don't find a work study, he'll take you too. Izuku nodded with trepidation. It's not the same though. Sure, I want to be an underground hero, but something tells me Aizawa doesn't take in turns on a lot of patrols. On top of his teaching duties? No, probably not. Said teacher spoke up from the front of the bus. You'd be correct, but neither of you should be worrying about work studies right now. You just took an exam. The whole bus gave a chorus of "Yes, sensei." Nizuku managed to not flinch. It was just an honorific. He was their teacher, after all. He wasn't sensei. The memory made the phone sitting in his pocket weigh a little heavier, and he fingered the edge of it, safe in his pocket and out of sight. He wanted to talk to Tomura. He missed the older boy. How could he not? To him, Tomura was peace and comfort. Tomura was practically home at this point, conditioning or no. Hitoshi was starting to feel like home as well, and the dorms were nice. School was good, but some part of him really missed playing video games in a bedroom in the bar, missed the simple knife fights and pun wars that had Kurogiri actually groaning with how terrible they were. On the other hand, Tomura was a villain that probably hadn't changed in the weeks he had been gone, despite how he wished that maybe they could all be friends. He associated with villains, had kidnapped UA students even more than him, and had definitely killed people before. Stain, even if he had technically been a vigilante, definitely crossed into villain territory as soon as he started going after heroes. Even if Izuku could understand his reasoning behind most of the attacks, and even agreed with some of his choices. But could he, in good conscience, just talk to Tomura like before? He had the means, the untraceable means. According to Himiko, even if he turned the phone in, they wouldn't be able to use it to find Tomura, so he would just lose his only avenue of talking with his friend, and lose whatever trust had been built up. As the bus pulled back up to the school, he made his decision. He had been through a lot. He could be a little selfish. In the safety of his room, he opened the one unnamed contact in the phone and typed out a message. Hi Tomura, it's Izuku. And there we go. So this was chapter 13. I do apologize for the voices in there. My throat is hurting like crazy. I think I'm like sick. I was congested like all last week, and yesterday my voice was like absolutely dead, which is why there was nothing posted actually. But it was a bit better today, and I wanted to post, so chapter 13 it is. If it's really so bad, I might remake it later, but that is a problem for future me. And anyway, do leave kudos on the original work. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next chapter.